The massive holographic display flickered to life in the Galactic Council chambers, casting an eerie blue glow across the assembled representatives of 1,000 different worlds. Ambassador Chun Wei stood at the center of the vast amphitheater, her weathered face showing no emotion as she delivered humanity's message to the stars. "The human delegation has exhausted all diplomatic options," she began, her voice carrying the weight of 3 years of failed negotiations. "For 36 months, we have presented evidence of the hegemony's systematic destruction of human colonies. For 36 months, this council has chosen to look away." The Krillian ambassador, a creature resembling a crystalline spider with too many eyes, chittered dismissively. "The humans speak of destruction, yet they provide only sensor data that could easily be fabricated. The hegemony has been a member of this council for 10,000 years. Earth has been here for merely 50. Chun Wei's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady. "Fabricated? Tell that to the 14 million colonists on New Shanghai who were vaporized when hegemony warships opened fire without warning. Tell that to the children floating frozen in the void above Europa Station." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some species showed what might have been sympathy, their various appendages and sensory organs turning toward the human ambassador. Others remained unmoved, their allegiances clearly lying with the powerful hegemony that controlled vast swaths of the galaxy's trade routes. High Executor Thrax of the hegemony rose from his seat, his obsidian form towering nearly 3 meters tall. His voice reverberated through the chamber like grinding stone. The human colonies were encroaching on hegemony space. They were given warnings. They chose not to heed them. Encroaching? Chun Wei's composure finally cracked, her voice rising. "Those colonies were established on worlds your own charts listed as unclaimed, worlds you had no interest in until humans made them bloom. The Altarian delegate, a being of pure energy contained within a mechanical shell, pulsed with colors that indicated skepticism. Even if these accusations hold truth, what would the humans have us do? The hegemony fleet is the largest in known space. Would you have us risk galactic war over a few frontier colonies?" Chun Wei straightened her shoulders, and, when she spoke again, her voice carried a dangerous edge. "No, honor delegates. We no longer ask anything of this council. We have learned that justice here is reserved only for those with the biggest fleets and the deepest pockets." She touched a control on her wrist, and the holographic display changed. Now it showed Earth itself, blue and green and beautiful, surrounded by a fleet of ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They were human ships, but they looked different from the usual Earth vessels, sleeker, darker, with geometries that seemed to bend the eye. "Earth recalls all human personnel from Council worlds, effective immediately," Chun Wei announced. "All trade agreements are suspended. All technology transfers are canceled. And we issue this final ultimatum to the hegemony. Return to your original borders and pay reparations for the murdered colonists, or face the consequences." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some delegates laughed at the audacity of these upstart humans threatening the mighty hegemony. Others seemed alarmed at the sudden escalation. The hegemony delegation remained silent, their black forms as still as monuments. High Executor Thrax finally spoke, his voice dripping with contempt. "The humans show their true nature at last. Warmongers and agitators, just as we suspected. Your ultimatum is noted and rejected. If Earth wishes to commit suicide by challenging the hegemony, so be it. Your species will serve as an example to others who might forget their place." Chun Wei nodded slowly, as if she had expected nothing else. "Then, we have nothing more to discuss." She turned to leave, then paused. "1 week, High Executor. You have 1 week to reconsider. After that," she didn't finish the sentence. As the human delegation filed out of the chamber, the other species buzzed with conversation. Most believed they had just witnessed the beginning of humanity's end. Earth stood alone against the hegemony, without allies, without support. It was madness. The hegemony's response came within hours. The Ninth Fleet, their most decorated armada consisting of 800 warships, was dispatched to Sol System. Their orders were simple: reduce Earth to ash and scatter humanity to the stellar winds. It would be a lesson to all who dared challenge the established order. Admiral Korthax, the Unbending, commanded the Ninth Fleet from his flagship, the Inevitable Supremacy. He was a veteran of 100 campaigns, had crushed dozens of rebellious species. Humans would be no different. Their technology was decades behind hegemony standards. Their fleet was a tenth the size. Their world were soft and undefended. Set course for Sol, he commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge. Maximum burn. I want to arrive before their week is up. Let them see death approaching and despair. The fleet moved as one, 800 instruments of destruction sliding through the void toward humanity's home. They passed through jump gates and crossed vast distances in days rather than months. Sensor stations throughout the galaxy tracked their progress, and everyone watched with bated breath. On Earth, the response to the approaching fleet was not what anyone expected. There was no panic in the streets, no massive evacuation attempts. Instead, there was a grim determination, a sense of purpose that had been lacking for generations. Humanity had tried to play nice with the galaxy, had tried to follow the rules and be good neighbors. That time was over. In hidden shipyards throughout the Sol System, engineers and workers labored around the clock. The ships they were building incorporated technologies that humanity had kept secret, developments they had made in the 50 years since first contact but had chosen not to share. The galaxy thought humans were decades behind. They were wrong. President Sarah Martinez addressed the people of Earth from the United Nations building in New York. Behind her, through the windows, the sky was filled with ascending spacecraft, not fleeing refugees, but warships rising to defensive positions. My fellow humans, she began, both those here on Earth and those scattered among the stars. Today we face a test unlike any in our history. The hegemony comes to destroy us because we dared to demand justice for our murdered children. They come with 800 ships, believing us weak and unprepared. She paused, and when she continued, there was steel in her voice. They're about to learn why humanity survived every challenge our own world threw at us. They're about to learn why we thrived where other species would have perished. They're about to learn that humans do not go gentle into that good night. All civilian ships are to proceed to designated safe zones immediately. All military personnel report to your stations. And to the Ninth Fleet approaching our home, you were warned. What happens next is on your heads. The broadcasts went out across human space, and something remarkable happened. The colonies that the Galactic Council assumed were defenseless began to reveal hidden weapons platforms. Trading vessels dropped their cargo and revealed military-grade weapons systems. Mining ships turned their industrial lasers toward the stars. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for longer than anyone realized. Back on the Inevitable Supremacy, Admiral Korthax received the intelligence reports with amusement. So, the humans have a few more ships than we thought. 100? 200? It matters not. The Ninth Fleet has never known defeat. His second-in-command, a younger hegemony officer named Orcs, seemed less certain. Admiral, these readings are strange. The human ships, their energy signatures don't match anything in our database. Korthax waved a dismissive appendage. New paint on old technology. The humans are clever with aesthetics, I'll give them that. But clever won't save them from antimatter bombardment. The fleet continued its approach, confident and unconcerned. They had 3 days until they reached Sol System. 3 days until humanity learned its place in the galactic order. On Earth, in a bunker buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General David Chun, no relation to the ambassador, stood before a tactical display showing the approaching hegemony fleet. Around him, his staff worked with quiet efficiency, updating positions and running simulations. 800 ships, his aide, Colonel Lisa Park, said quietly. Even with our hidden assets, we're outnumbered 3-1. She nodded slowly. In conventional warfare, yes. But when has humanity ever fought conventionally? He touched the display. zooming in on the Ninth Fleet's formation. Look at them, flying in perfect formation, exactly as they have for 10,000 years. They think this will be like every other suppression campaign they've fought. We'll be different, sir, Park asked. Chen smiled, but there was no humor in it. Colonel, do you know what humanity's greatest military innovations have always been? Superior firepower. No, unpredictability. We've always won by doing what our enemies didn't expect. The hegemony expects us to meet them ship to ship in honorable combat. They expect us to die gloriously, but inevitably. He turned from the display. They're about to learn that humans don't fight with honor. We fight to win. The hours tick by. On worlds throughout human space, families hugged their children tighter. Soldiers checked their weapons one more time. Engineers ran final diagnostics on systems that had never been tested in actual combat. The entire species held its breath. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions were called. Some delegates urged intervention, fearing the precedent that would be set if the hegemony simply annihilated Earth. Others argued that humanity had brought this on themselves. The debates raged on, but no action was taken. As always, the Council chose the path of inaction. Ambassador Chun Wei watched these proceedings from Earth, her face grim. She had known it would come to this. The galaxy respected only strength, and humanity had hidden its strength for too long in the name of peace. That mistake would not be repeated. The Ninth Fleet crossed into the outer reaches of Sol System, passing the orbit of Pluto. Long-range sensors detected human ships massing near Neptune, a pitiful force of perhaps 300 vessels. Admiral Korthax ordered his fleet to maintain course for Earth. The human ships at Neptune were likely just a delaying action, a heroic but futile gesture. Then the first anomaly occurred. The jump gate they had used to enter the system, one of dozens scattered throughout human space, suddenly went dark. Not destroyed, that would have created a massive energy signature. It simply stopped working. Technical malfunction, the fleet's chief engineer reported. The gate appears to be intact, but non-functional. Korthax frowned, a gesture that on his species involved a shifting of his obsidian features. No matter. We won't need it to return home. We'll use the gate near Mars after we've completed our mission. But then the Mars gate went dark. Then the Jupiter gate. One by one, every jump gate in human space simply stopped functioning. The Ninth Fleet found itself cut off from quick reinforcement or retreat. Impossible, Vorix breted. The gates are predecessor technology. No one knows how to disable them without destroying them. Korthax's confidence wavered for the first time. Continue to Earth. Whatever trick the humans are playing, it won't save them from direct engagement. The human fleet near Neptune began to move, but not toward the hegemony armada. Instead, they scattered in all directions, moving faster than hegemony intelligence had said human ships could move. They weren't running, though. They were taking positions. Admiral, the sensor operator called out, alarm in his voice. I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. The humans, they're powering up something. Hundreds of installations. Thousands. They're everywhere. The tactical display lit up like a holiday celebration. Hidden installations on moons, asteroids, and in the void itself began revealing themselves. Weapons platforms, sensor arrays, and things the hegemony computers couldn't even classify. The Sol system wasn't just defended, it was a fortress. And still the Ninth Fleet pressed on. They were the hegemony's finest. They had superior numbers, superior firepower, superior technology. Hidden bases and fancy tricks wouldn't change the fundamental equation. They were 2 days from Earth when the second anomaly occurred. Ships throughout the fleet began reporting malfunctions. Nothing major at first, a navigation system here, a communication array there. But the malfunctions spread like a virus, always hitting non-critical systems, but creating chaos nonetheless. Sabotage, Vorix declared. But how? Our cybersecurity is impenetrable. The answer came from an unexpected source. Every screen in the fleet suddenly displayed the same message in perfect hegemony script. You were warned. Leave now, and you may yet survive. Continue, and become an example for others. You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal. Korthax's rage was incandescent. Ignore this pathetic attempt at psychological warfare. All ships increase speed. We'll reach Earth in 30 hours and burn their arrogance from the galaxy. The hour passed. The Ninth Fleet maintained course. And then, without warning, space itself seemed to twist around them. The stars elongated and blurred. Sensor readings became gibberish. The entire fleet found itself trapped in a bubble of distorted spacetime. What is happening? Korthax demanded. His science officer's voice trembled. Unknown, Admiral. It's as if space itself has been folded around us. We're moving, but we're not getting anywhere. It's like being caught in a cosmic whirlpool. The human ships, unaffected by whatever was happening, began to close in. But they didn't attack. They simply watched, maintaining distance, as the Ninth Fleet struggled against physics itself. On Earth, President Martinez made another broadcast. This time, it wasn't just to humanity. It was to the entire galaxy. The hegemony Ninth Fleet entered our space with the intent to commit genocide. They ignored our warnings and rejected our offer of peaceful withdrawal. As promised, they now faced the consequences. She gestured to someone off-screen, and the video feed switched to a view of the trapped fleet. What you are witnessing is humanity's answer to those who would destroy us. We call it the Alcubierre Cage, a weaponized application of faster-than-light physics. The Ninth Fleet is trapped in a bubble of warped space. They cannot escape. They cannot call for help. They exist in a pocket universe of our making. The galactic community watched in stunned silence. This was impossible. Humans had only had FTL technology for 50 years. They couldn't possibly have advanced it to this degree. Martinez continued, her voice carrying across the light years. We could destroy the Ninth Fleet with a thought, collapse the cage, and scatter their atoms across dimensional barriers. But we are not the monsters the hegemony claims we are. So we make this offer once more. Surrender unconditionally, and you will be returned to hegemony space unharmed. Refuse, and remain in your prison until the stars burn cold. Admiral Korthax, watching this broadcast from his trapped flagship, felt something he had never experienced in his long career, fear. Not of death. He had faced death many times. But fear of the unknown. These humans had done something that the greatest scientific minds of the hegemony couldn't even theorize. What else were they capable of? His pride warred with his pragmatism. The Ninth Fleet had never surrendered. The hegemony had never bent knee to a lesser species. But as the hours passed, and every attempt to break free failed, as his engineers reported increasing strain on their ship's systems from the spatial distortion, he was forced to confront reality. The humans had won without firing a single shot. Sent a message. He finally commanded, each word tasting like ash. The Ninth Fleet surrenders. The response was immediate. The distortion faded. Space returned to normal. The human ships moved in, not to destroy, but to escort. The 800 ships of the Ninth Fleet, the pride of the hegemony, were guided to a holding area near Jupiter. But the humans weren't done. As the galaxy watched, Earth revealed more of its hidden strength. Fleets emerged from concealment. Not hundreds of ships, but thousands. Weapons platforms that could crack moons. Defense systems that could turn entire solar systems into fortresses. And all of it based on technologies that humanity had developed in secret, advancing far beyond what the galactic community had believed possible. The message was clear. Humanity had tried to join the galaxy as peaceful partners. They had been met with contempt and murder. So they had prepared for war while speaking of peace. They had hidden their strength while their children died. No more. President Martinez delivered one final address to the Galactic Council. Earth stands ready to defend itself and all human colonies against any aggression. We have demonstrated our capability. We have shown our resolve. The hegemony believed humans were weak because we chose negotiation over violence. Let this be a lesson. Human patience is not infinite, and human mercy should not be mistaken for human weakness. The Ninth Fleet will be returned to hegemony space after repairs to their systems. They will carry with them the truth of what happened here. Earth seeks no empire, no domination. We want only to live in peace and see justice for our murdered people. But if forced to choose between extinction and war, she paused, and when she spoke again, every human in the galaxy felt the chill of her words. We choose war, and we will win. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, in council chambers and command centers, in trading posts and colonies, beings of 1,000 different species struggled to process what they had witnessed. The humans, those soft, squishy newcomers who had begged for justice and fairness, had just demonstrated technology beyond anything the established powers possessed. And they had done it without killing a single enemy. The Ninth Fleet, 800 of the most powerful warships in known space, had been neutralized like unruly children put in timeout. It was a demonstration of power that somehow managed to be more terrifying than any massacre could have been. In a hidden bunker beneath the Rockies, General Chun watched as the Ninth Fleet was processed and prepared for return. "Think they'll leave us alone now?" Colonel Park asked. "For a while," Chun replied. "But this isn't over. We've shown them the stick. Eventually, we'll need to show them the carrot too. But for now," he smiled grimly, "for now, they'll think twice before murdering human children." The jump gates throughout human space remained dark. Earth had figured out not just how to disable them, but how to control them. No one could enter human space without permission. It was an isolation, but a protective one. As news of the Ninth Fleet's bloodless defeat spread, something unexpected began to happen. Smaller species, those who had also suffered under hegemony oppression but lacked the power to resist, began reaching out to Earth. Quietly, secretly, they offered alliance and trade. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a single day, and everyone scrambled to adjust. The hegemony itself was thrown into chaos. The return of the Ninth Fleet, traumatized and defeated without a battle, shook their entire worldview. Urgent meetings were called. Some factions demanded immediate total war against humanity. Others, wiser perhaps, counseled caution. If the humans could do this, what else might they be capable of? Ambassador Chunwei, recalled from the Galactic Council, stood on the observation deck of humanity's newest fortress station, looking out at the stars. She had played her part, enduring years of humiliation and dismissal to maintain the facade of human weakness. Now the mask was off. An aide approached with a datapad. "Ambassador, we're receiving numerous requests for diplomatic contact. Several species want to discuss trade agreements. Others are asking about mutual defense pacts." Chunwei nodded. "Tell them we'll consider all proposals. But make it clear, humanity negotiates from a position of strength now. We won't beg for fairness again." As she watched the stars, she thought about the 14 million dead on New Shanghai, about the children of Europa Station. Justice had not yet been served, but for the first time, it seemed possible. The galaxy had learned that humanity would not go quietly into the night. The Ninth Fleet had vanished into a prison of twisted space and emerged broken. It was a message written in the fundamental forces of the universe. Humanity was here to stay, and the galaxy would have to adjust to that reality. But this was just the beginning. The real test would come when the hegemony recovered from its shock and decided how to respond. Would they seek revenge? Would they finally negotiate in good faith? Or would they force humanity to reveal even more of what they had hidden in the dark between the stars? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain: the age of human weakness was over. The age of human strength had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The grand assembly of the hegemony convened in the crystalline spires of their capital world, Throne Prime. For the first time in 3,000 years, every member of the High Command had been summoned for an emergency session. The usual grandeur of the assembly, the ceremonial robes, the ancient rituals, the displays of power, seemed hollow in the wake of the Ninth Fleet's humiliation. Supreme Overlord Kython stood at the center of the chamber, his massive form dwarfing even the other hegemony elites. His voice, when it came, was like the grinding of continental plates. 800 ships, the pride of our fleet, defeated without a single shot fired. caged like animals by a species we considered barely worthy of notice. Admiral Korthax stood in the position of the accused, his once proud bearing diminished. The other members of the High Command watched him with expressions ranging from fury to calculation. In hegemony society, failure of this magnitude typically had only one outcome. Explain, Kython commanded. Help us understand how the mighty Ninth Fleet was reduced to cowering prisoners by these humans. Korthax's voice was steady, though those who knew him could hear the strain. Supreme Overlord, the humans possess technology we do not understand. They manipulated space-time itself, creating a prison from the very fabric of reality. Our weapons, our shields, our engines, all were useless against it. War Master SEK Tor slammed an armored fist on his podium. Excuses. The humans showed you a fancy light show, and you surrendered like hatchlings. Where was your honor? Where was your fury? Better to die in battle than live in shame. There was no battle to die in, Korthax replied quietly. That's what you fail to understand. We were not defeated in combat. We were neutralized, made irrelevant. It would be like trying to fight gravity itself. The assembly erupted in arguments. Some called for Korthax's immediate execution. Others demanded total war against humanity. A few quieter voices suggested negotiation, but they were quickly shouted down. The hegemony had ruled through strength for millennia. To show weakness now would invite rebellion from 100 subjugated species. On Earth, the human leadership watched these proceedings through intercepted communications. The quantum encryption the hegemony used had been child's play to crack once humanity had decided to stop pretending to be technologically inferior. They're going to escalate, General Chun observed, studying the translated transcripts. Their entire society is built on the principle of might makes right. We've challenged that principle. President Martinez nodded grimly. Then, we need to be ready. How long until the Aegis network is fully operational? 3 weeks, Chun replied. But we have enough coverage to protect Earth and the core colonies now. The outer settlements remain vulnerable. Begin evacuation protocols for the outer settlements, Martinez decided. Voluntary for now, but make sure they understand the risks. And accelerate production on the Prometheus platform. Admiral Susan Reeves, head of Earth's revealed fleet, leaned forward. Madam President, if we're going to face the full might of the hegemony, we need allies. The smaller species who've reached out, we should formalize those relationships. Agreed, but carefully. We don't want to seem like we're building an empire of our own. Martinez turned to the holographic display showing the galaxy. We need to be the alternative to the hegemony, not a replacement for them. Back on Throne Prime, Supreme Overlord Kython had reached a decision. Admiral Korthax, you will retain your command, but only to lead the assault that will restore our honor. You know the human capabilities better than anyone. You will help us devise a strategy to overcome them. Korthax bowed low. I serve the hegemony, Supreme Overlord. But I must warn you, what I witnessed was not the full extent of human capability. They were holding back. They wanted us alive to spread the message. Then, we will force them to reveal everything, Kython declared. Mobilize the 2nd through 7th fleets. Recall all reserve units. Send messages to our tribute worlds. They will contribute ships and soldiers. If the humans want war, they shall have it. And if they use the same weapon? Korthax dared to ask. Kython's obsidian features shifted into what might have been a smile. Then we will adapt. The hegemony has faced challenges before. We have always prevailed. These humans have one trick. Once we understand it, we will counter it. And then we will remind the galaxy why we have ruled for so long. The mobilization began immediately. Across hegemony space, shipyards that had been idle for centuries roared back to life. Reserve fleets were awakened from their long sleep. Tribute worlds received demands for ships, soldiers, and resources. The greatest military buildup in galactic history was underway. But the hegemony's actions did not go unnoticed by the rest of the galaxy. On the trade world of Nexus Station, representatives of dozens smaller species met in secret. The Altarians, the Quellax, the Draknari, All had suffered under hegemony rule, but had never dared resist. Now, with humanity's example before them, they began to wonder if things could be different. The humans stood alone and survived, clicked Ambassador Triac of the Quellax, her mandibles expressing what her species considered hope. Perhaps together, we need not stand at all. Perhaps we could soar. The Draknari representative, a serpentine being wrapped around a mobility frame, hissed thoughtfully. The hegemony demands 3 of our hive ships for their war fleet. Ships that could defend our own worlds. How long do we continue to bleed for their glory? Careful, warned the Altarian, its energy form pulsing with caution. The walls have sensors. The hegemony has eyes everywhere. But, even as they warned of caution, the seeds of rebellion were being planted. The human defiance had shown that the hegemony could be challenged. More importantly, it had shown that they could be humiliated without triggering the apocalyptic response everyone feared. On Earth, the diplomatic corps worked overtime. Secret meetings were held with species who had quietly reached out. Defense pacts were drafted. Technology sharing agreements were negotiated. Humanity was building a coalition, but carefully, quietly, without the grandstanding that would provoke immediate retaliation. Ambassador Chunwei, despite her official recall from the Galactic Council, maintained unofficial channels with sympathetic delegates. Her years of patient diplomacy had built relationships that now proved invaluable. The hegemony is mobilizing everything, her Altarian contact informed her during one clandestine communication. 6 full fleets, over 4,000 ships. They speak of making an example that will last for eternity. Let them come, Shinwei replied calmly. Earth has more surprises waiting. But I hope it doesn't come to that. If your people are willing to consider alternatives. We are listening, the Altarian admitted. Many are listening, but we need to see that humanity can survive what's coming. The hegemony has never been defeated in open war. There's a first time for everything, Chunwei said, and we don't intend to fight the war they're expecting. 3 weeks passed. The hegemony armada grew larger by the day. Intelligence reports put their numbers at nearly 5,000 ships, with more being added constantly. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in recorded galactic history. The message was clear. Humanity would be erased so thoroughly that their name would become a curse word for any who thought to challenge the established order. But Earth had not been idle. The Aegis network came online, a series of defensive installations that turned the entire Sol system into a fortress. The technology that had trapped the Ninth Fleet was refined and expanded. New weapons were deployed, things that human scientists had theorized but never built because they were too terrible to use. Until now, the revelation of the Prometheus platform caused panic even among Earth's military leadership. It was a weapon that could crack planets, tear holes in reality, or worse. Its very existence was a statement. Push us far enough, and we will end you, no matter the cost. This violates every treaty on weapons of mass destruction. One general protested during a security briefing. Treaties we were never allowed to sign, General Chun reminded him. Treaties that protect the powerful while leaving the weak defenseless. The hegemony has planet crackers. They've used them. The only difference is that ours is better. President Martinez authorized the platform's deployment, but with strict controls. It would be humanity's last resort, the final option if all else failed. But its mere existence, once leaked to hegemony intelligence, might serve as a deterrent. The smaller species watching this buildup began to make their own calculations. If the humans fell, the hegemony would be more powerful than ever, emboldened by victory and hungry for revenge against any who had shown sympathy to Earth. But if the humans won, everything would change. On the colony world of Haven, one of the outer settlements that had refused evacuation, colonist Maria Santos stood watch at a sensor station. Haven was home to 3 million humans who had built a life on this frontier world. They had voted to stay, to defend their homes, even knowing they were beyond the Aegis network's protection. Anything, her shift supervisor, David Park, asked as he brought her coffee. Nothing yet, Maria replied. But they'll come here first. Test our defenses on the edges before moving on Earth. Park nodded. The defense platforms are ready. The militia is armed. If they want Haven, they'll pay for it. Think it'll make a difference? Maria asked. 3 million against the entire hegemony? Every system they have to fight for is one that slows them down, Park said. Gives Earth more time to prepare. And who knows? Maybe we'll surprise them too. The first probes came a week later. Hegemony scout ships, testing human defensive responses. They found Haven ready and waiting. The colony's hidden weapons platforms opened fire, destroying 3 scouts before they could report back. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. Supreme Overlord Kython received the reports with satisfaction. So, the humans have armed their colonies. Good. It will make the victory more complete when we burn them all. Admiral Korthax studied the tactical data with unease. The weapons signatures from Haven didn't match anything in their databases. Once again, the humans were showing capabilities beyond what anyone had expected. Supreme Overlord, he ventured carefully. Perhaps we should reconsider a direct assault. The humans clearly have technologies we don't understand. A negotiated settlement. Would show weakness. Kython cut him off. The galaxy watches. Our tribute worlds watch. We must demonstrate that challenging the hegemony means annihilation. Prepare the fleets. We attack in force. The assembled hegemony armada began its journey toward human space. 5,000 ships moving in perfect formation, a display of power meant to cow any who saw it. The news spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. This was it, the war that would determine the future balance of power. But humanity had one more card to play. As the hegemony fleet approached the disabled jump gates at the edge of human space, preparing to take the long way through normal space, every screen in the galaxy lit up with an emergency broadcast. President Martinez appeared, but she wasn't alone. Standing with her were representatives of 15 different species, all former tribute worlds of the hegemony who had secretly allied with Earth in the past weeks. Citizens of the galaxy, Martinez began, the hegemony comes to destroy humanity for the crime of defending ourselves. They bring 5,000 ships to commit genocide. They expect us to face them alone. The camera pulled back, revealing not just the dignitaries but a massive holographic display showing combined fleet positions. Human ships, yes, but also Quellax hive ships, Draknari battle cruisers, Altarian energy vessels, and others. We are not alone, Martinez continued. The coalition of free worlds stands together against tyranny. For too long, the hegemony has ruled through fear. Today, that ends. The response was immediate and volcanic. The hegemony fleet received urgent messages from their home worlds. Rebellion was spreading like wildfire. Tribute worlds were declaring independence. Defense fleets were refusing orders. The empire that had stood for 10,000 years was fracturing in real time. Impossible, Supreme Overlord Kython raged. Order all loyal forces to suppress the rebellions. Burn the tribute worlds if necessary. But it was too late. The careful diplomatic work Earth had done, the example they had set, the hope they had kindled, it all came together in a moment of galactic transformation. The hegemony fleet found itself not just facing humanity, but a coalition of species who had chosen this moment to claim their freedom. Admiral Korthax watched the tactical displays with something approaching awe. They planned this, he said quietly. The humans knew we would respond with overwhelming force. They used the time to build alliances, to show others that resistance was possible. We're not facing a single rebellious species anymore. We're facing a revolution. The first battle came at Haven. The hegemony sent 1,000 ships to crush the colony and demonstrate their power. They found not just human defenders, but coalition forces who had snuck through back channels to reinforce the world. The battle was fierce, with new technologies clashing against traditional hegemony doctrine. Haven's secret weapon was revealed when the hegemony dreadnoughts moved to bombard the planet. The colonists activated something they called the mirror field, a defensive system that reflected energy weapons back at their sources. Hegemony ships found themselves being destroyed by their own weapons, their mighty dreadnoughts turning into expanding clouds of debris. The battle for Haven lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the hegemony assault force had lost 400 ships. The colony still stood. The coalition had suffered losses too, but far fewer than anyone had expected. The message was clear. This would not be the easy victory the hegemony had anticipated. News of Haven's successful defense spread instantly. More tribute worlds declared for the coalition. Hegemony forces found themselves stretched thin, trying to maintain control of an empire that was dissolving beneath their feet. The main fleet pressed on toward Earth, but now they faced a different equation. General Chun stood in Earth's command center, watching the tactical displays update in real time. They're still coming, he noted. Even with the rebellions, they're maintaining course for Earth. They have to, President Martinez replied. In their minds, we're the source of the infection. Kill humanity, and maybe they can restore order. Then, they're in for a surprise, Admiral Reeves said. The Aegis network is fully operational. The fleet is in position. And if they push us... She glanced at the locked console that controlled the Prometheus platform. We hold that in reserve, Martinez said firmly. We're trying to build a better galaxy, not rule over ashes. The hegemony fleet encountered its next surprise as it pushed deeper into human space. The jump gates they had expected to remain disabled suddenly, flared to life, but not for them. Coalition reinforcements poured through, gates that had been locked now serving as highways for Earth's allies. The humans hadn't just learned to disable the predecessor technology. They had learned to control it. Ow! Kython demanded. The gates are 10 million years old. No one understands how they work. A human scientist named Dr. Sarah Kim could have answered that question. Hidden in a research facility on Titan, she and her team had spent 30 years studying the gates. What the galaxy saw as immutable artifacts, humans had approached as just another engineering problem to solve. It helped that humans had no preconceptions about what was impossible. The running battles continued for days. The hegemony fleet was larger, but the coalition forces were more motivated and increasingly better equipped. Human technology was being shared with their allies in real time, upgrades and modifications that made even old ships dangerous. But the real battle was happening in the court of galactic opinion. The Galactic Council, which had stood by while the hegemony prepared to commit genocide, found itself facing demands for action. Species that had remained neutral were being forced to choose sides. Ambassador Chan Wei addressed the council via hologram, since she was still officially banned from the chambers. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, she said. Will we continue to accept might as the only right, or will we build something better? The coalition offers partnership, not domination. Trade, not tribute. Justice, not genocide. The hegemony representative tried to respond, but found his words drowned out by something unprecedented: applause. Delegates who had sat in silence for centuries were standing, applauding, declaring their support for the coalition. The old order was crumbling in real time. But Supreme Overlord Kython was not finished. As his main fleet finally approached Earth itself, he ordered the deployment of their ultimate weapon, the World Ender, a device that could destabilize a star and destroy an entire system. If we cannot rule, he declared, then we will ensure no one can. Target Soul. If Earth wants to die for their principles, we will oblige them. The intelligence reached Earth Command within minutes. The World Ender was legendary, a weapon so terrible that even the hegemony had only used it twice in their history. There was no known defense against it. How long? Martinez asked. 6 hours until they're in range, General Chen reported. The Aegis network can't stop something that attacks the star itself. Martinez closed her eyes, weighing the choice she had hoped never to make. When she opened them, her decision was clear. Activate Prometheus. Target the World Ender ship. Fire when ready. The Prometheus platform was humanity's answer to those who would end worlds. It didn't just destroy, it erased. It reached across dimensions to remove its target from existence entirely. No debris, no explosion, just absence. Admiral Korthax was on the bridge of the inevitable supremacy when it happened. One moment, the World Ender vessel was there, pride of the hegemony fleet. The next, it simply wasn't. No flash, no warning. The space it had occupied was empty, as if it had never existed at all. What? Kython's voice held something it had never contained before: fear. What did they do? The human message came seconds later, broadcast on all frequencies. General Chun himself delivered it. That was a demonstration. We can do that to every ship in your fleet, to your homeworld, to your entire civilization. But we won't, because we're not you. You came to commit genocide. We offer you one final chance. Surrender. Order all hegemony forces to stand down. Accept the new reality of the galaxy, or face erasure. The bridge of the hegemony flagship erupted in chaos. Some officers demanded immediate attack. Others begged for surrender. Kython stood silent, his worldview shattered. The humans possessed a weapon that made everything else obsolete. They could win with a thought. Admiral Korthax stepped forward. Supreme Overlord, we must consider. Silence. Kython roared. Then, quieter, give me a channel to Earth. The negotiation that followed was brief. The hegemony would withdraw all forces. They would recognize the coalition of free worlds. They would pay reparations for the destroyed human colonies. In exchange, humanity would not use the Prometheus platform again, except in the most extreme circumstances. It was not a surrender. Technically, the hegemony saved that much face. But everyone knew what it was: the end of an empire and the beginning of something new. As the hegemony fleet began its withdrawal, President Martinez addressed humanity and the coalition. Today, we have won more than a military victory. We have proven that the galaxy can change, that might does not always make right, that species can stand together against tyranny. But with victory comes responsibility. We possess terrible weapons. We must use them wisely, or not at all. The coalition of free worlds will be built on justice, not fear, on cooperation, not domination. It will not be easy, but it will be worth it. The celebrations across human space and coalition worlds lasted for days. But in the command centers and diplomatic halls, the real work was just beginning. A new galactic order needed to be built. Old grievances needed to be addressed. The technology that humanity had revealed needed to be controlled. General Chin stood on the observation deck of Earth Command, watching the last hegemony ships disappear into the void. Colonel Park joined him. Think it's really over? Park asked. The war? Yes. The work? It's just beginning. Chun turned from the window. We've shown the galaxy that humans won't be victims. Now I need to show them we won't be tyrants either. The Prometheus platform will be sealed, hopefully forever. Some weapons are too terrible to use. Chun smiled grimly. But it's good that they know we have it. Peace through strength is still peace. The transformation of the galaxy would take years. The hegemony, reduced but not destroyed, would struggle to find its place in the new order. Some of their tribute worlds would seek revenge for centuries of oppression. Humanity would have to navigate its new role as a major power carefully. But for now, Earth was safe. Human colonies would rebuild. The children of New Shanghai and Europa Station would be mourned and remembered. And the galaxy would remember the lesson written in the stars. The humans, when pushed, did not go gentle into that good night. The Ninth Fleet had vanished without a trace, trapped in folded space. The world ender had been erased from existence. And in their wake, the galaxy had changed forever. The age of empires built on fear was ending. The age of coalitions built on hope had begun. It was, as humans might say, a good start. The ruins of the hegemony battle cruiser, Relentless Pride, drifted through the void, a monument to the war that had reshaped the galaxy. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Sol, and salvage crews from a dozen species picked through the wreckage, searching for technology and answers. Among them moved human archaeologist Dr. Jennifer Martinez, no relation to the president, leading a special investigation team. Another hegemony data core, intact, her assistant called out, carefully extracting the crystalline storage device from the twisted metal. This makes 12 from this ship alone. Jennifer floated over in her environmental suit, examining the core with practiced eyes. Good. The more we understand about how they think, the better we can prevent this from happening again. The coalition of free worlds had won the war, but victory had brought unexpected challenges. Dozens of species, freed from hegemony control after millennia, struggled to govern themselves. Ancient grudges surfaced, power vacuums created chaos, and humanity, thrust into a leadership role it hadn't sought, tried to help while avoiding becoming the new oppressor. On Earth, President Martinez convened another emergency session with the Coalition Council. The holographic forms of representatives from 43 species filled the chamber, more than double the number from just 3 months ago. Everyone wanted to join the winning side. The situation on Kepler 442b is deteriorating, the Quellax representative reported. 3 different factions claim legitimate rule. They've requested coalition peacekeepers. General Chun, now serving as Earth's military liaison to the coalition, brought up the tactical display. That's the 15th such request this month. Our forces are stretched thin. We can't police the entire galaxy. If we don't, who will? Asked the Draknari ambassador. The power vacuum left by the hegemony's collapse grows daily. Pirates raid shipping lanes. Warlords seize systems. Without stability, the coalition will fragment before it truly forms. Martinez studied the star map, showing trouble spots across the galaxy. Red markers outnumbered green by 3-1. We knew this wouldn't be easy. The hegemony maintained order through fear for 10,000 years. Building something better takes time. Time we may not have, warned Ambassador Chenwei, recently appointed as humanity's chief diplomatic officer. Intelligence reports suggest several former hegemony admirals are gathering forces. They call themselves the Restoration. They promise to bring back order. Through the same methods as before, Martinez said grimly. Subjugation and genocide. We can't allow that. But stopping was easier said than done. The coalition military was a patchwork of different species with different technologies, doctrines, and motivations. The human fleet remained the most advanced, but even with allied contributions, they couldn't be everywhere at once. The first major test came at Sanctuary Station, a massive refugee center housing millions displaced by the war. Former hegemony Admiral Vextor arrived with a fleet of loyalists, demanding supplies and recruits for his restoration movement. The station's defenses were minimal. It was meant to be a place of healing, not war. Commander Lisa Wong of the Coalition frigate Resilience was the first to respond to the distress call. Her ship was one of the new hybrid designs, combining human and alien technology. Fast, powerful, but still just one ship against Vextor's dozen. Coalition vessel, withdraw. Vextor's message was blunt. This is hegemony business. The old treaties still apply here. There are no old treaties, Wong replied. Only the new law. Stand down or be fired upon. Her crew, human, Quellax, Altarian, and others stood ready. They were outnumbered 12-1, but they had something Vextor's forces lacked: belief in what they were fighting for. The battle was brief but decisive. Wong used the same hit-and-run tactics that had served humanity well during the war, her ship's advanced systems allowing her to strike and fade before the enemy could respond. But the real victory came when the refugees themselves joined the fight. Makeshift weapons fired from the station. Small craft launched suicide runs. The oppressed, given a chance to fight back, took it with both hands. Vextor's fleet, expecting easy prey, found themselves in a 3-dimensional knife fight. When coalition reinforcements arrived 3 hours later, they found Vextor's fleet in ruins and Commander Wong's ship badly damaged but victorious. The message spread across the galaxy. The coalition would protect those who couldn't protect themselves. But protection required more than military force. On Haven, the colony that had been first to face hegemony assault, Governor Maria Santos dealt with a different kind of challenge. Thousands of former hegemony citizens, mostly lower caste workers abandoned when their empire crumbled, sought refuge on human worlds. They were our enemies 6 months ago, one colonist argued at a town meeting. Now we're supposed to feed and house them. They were slaves to their system as much as anyone, Santos replied. Do we become what we fought against? Or do we prove we're better? Or worse, if someone gains control of ours? That's why we're funding your research, Martinez replied. We need a shield against our own sword. Kim's team worked in secret, exploring the fundamental forces that made Prometheus possible. They made progress, but slowly. The weapon operated on principles that bordered on magic, manipulating reality at levels that challenged understanding. Creating a defense meant pushing even further into the unknown. Meanwhile, the galactic economy struggled to adapt to the new reality. The hegemony had controlled major trade routes for millennia. Their collapse left shipping vulnerable and markets chaotic. Pirates, some flying hegemony colors, others simply opportunistic, plagued merchant vessels. Captain Jack O'Brien of the merchant vessel Lucky Strike learned this firsthand when his ship was interdicted near the Vega system. 3 pirate vessels, converted hegemony patrol ships, demanded his cargo of medical supplies bound for a plague-stricken world. Hand over the cargo, and you can leave alive, the pirate commander growled over the comm. O'Brien, a veteran of Earth's merchant marine who had retrofitted his ship with some interesting surprises, smiled grimly. Counteroffer. You leave now, and I don't demonstrate why humans earned our reputation. The pirates laughed. They stopped laughing when the Lucky Strike's hidden weapons pods deployed, revealing military-grade plasma cannons. The merchant vessel had teeth, and it knew how to use them. The brief battle that followed became legendary in merchant circles. O'Brien not only drove off the pirates, but captured one of their vessels, delivering it and its crew to coalition authorities. His actions inspired other merchants to arm themselves, creating an informal militia that helped secure trade routes. But the real transformation was happening in the halls of science and education. The coalition established exchange programs, bringing together the best minds from member species. Technologies that had been hoarded for millennia were shared. Problems that had seemed unsolvable yielded to fresh perspectives. On the research station Harmony, built at the intersection of 3 major trade routes, scientists from 24 species worked together. Dr. Martinez led a team studying recovered hegemony technology, trying to understand not just how it worked, but the philosophy behind it. Look at this, she told her mixed species team, displaying a hegemony power core schematic. Everything is designed for dominance. Maximum output, no safety margins, no consideration for environmental impact. It's technology as oppression. Her Altarian colleague pulsed thoughtfully. Compare it to human designs. You build in redundancies, fail-safes, efficiency. Your technology assumes cooperation, not domination. Maybe that's why we won, Jennifer mused. Our tech evolved to solve problems, not control people. The months turned into a year. The coalition grew stronger, but so did the challenges. The restoration movement splintered into factions, some seeking to rebuild the hegemony, others simply carving out petty kingdoms. Refugee crises continued. Resource disputes arose between coalition members. President Martinez, her term extended by emergency vote, aged visibly under the strain. But she persevered, guided by a simple principle. The galaxy was messy, but it was free. Better chaos with hope than order through oppression. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. On the hegemony core world of Throne Prime, now under coalition supervision, a group of young hegemony citizens requested an audience with occupation forces. They called themselves the New Path Movement. We were born into a system that taught us we were superior. Their leader, a young hegemony named Chorus, explained to the coalition commander. But we've seen where that led. We want to help build something better. It was a risk. Many in the coalition still saw all hegemony as enemies. But Martinez authorized a pilot program, bringing young hegemony into coalition schools and projects. The results were mixed at first. Fights, misunderstandings, deep-seated prejudices on all sides. But slowly progress emerged. A hegemony engineer working with humans developed improved shield technology. A mixed crew delivered emergency supplies to a disaster zone. Former enemies became, if not friends, at least colleagues. The real test came when intelligence discovered a massive restoration fleet massing in the outer reaches, led by none other than former Supreme Overlord Kython. He had spent the year gathering every disaffected hegemony, every species that preferred the old ways, every pirate and warlord who thrived in chaos. His message was simple: join him in destroying the coalition and restoring the natural order. "How many ships?" General Chun asked, studying the intelligence reports. 3,000 and growing, the analyst replied. "They're using hidden shipyards, automated factories the hegemony kept in reserve. In 6 months, they could double that number." "Then, we can't wait 6 months," Chun decided. "We need to act now, while we still have numerical superiority." But President Martinez had a different idea. "What if we don't fight them at all?" The room fell silent. Chun frowned. "Madam President, they're building a fleet specifically to destroy us." "Are they? Or are they building a fleet because they're afraid?" Martinez brought up sociological data the teams had been compiling. "Look at who's joining Kython. The dispossessed, the fearful, those who can't adapt to change. They're not evil, they're terrified. Terrified people with planet-killer weapons are still dangerous," Chun pointed out. "Agreed. But what if we could address the fear instead of just the weapons?" The plan that emerged was audacious even by human standards. Instead of massing for war, the coalition announced a new initiative: the reconciliation protocols. Any former hegemony system that wanted to join the coalition would be welcomed, with guarantees of autonomy and protection. Resources would be shared. Past crimes would be addressed through restoration, not revenge. "You're offering amnesty to war criminals," the Quellax representative protested. "We're offering a future to those who have none," Martinez replied. "Yes, the leadership must face justice. But the billions living under them? They need hope, not punishment." The announcement sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Some coalition members threatened to withdraw. Others saw the wisdom in avoiding another devastating war. The debate raged in council chambers and on street corners. But the real impact was in Kython's fleet. Dissension spread as word of the reconciliation protocols reached lower-ranking officers and crew. Why fight to restore a system that had used them as cannon fodder? Why die for leaders who saw them as expendable? Defections began as a trickle, then became a flood. Entire ships switched sides, their crews seeking the promised amnesty. Kython found his mighty fleet shrinking daily, not from battle, but from hope. In desperation, he accelerated his plans. With 1,000 ships remaining loyal, he launched a surprise attack on the coalition shipyards at Proxima Station. If he could cripple coalition ship production, he might still achieve victory through fear. The battle for Proxima became the final major engagement of what historians would later call the Transition Wars. Coalition forces, warned by defectors, met Kython's fleet in the system's outer reaches. But this wasn't like the previous battles. This time, former hegemony ships fought on both sides. Commander Wong, promoted to admiral after her heroic defense of Sanctuary Station, led coalition forces. Her fleet was a patchwork of species and technologies, but they fought with unity of purpose. Kython's forces, driven by desperation and fear, fought with the fury of the doomed. The battle raged for 10 hours. Ships died in nuclear fire. Thousands of lives were lost. But gradually, the coalition's superior coordination and technology began to tell. Kython's forces were pushed back, then surrounded. In the end, it was Admiral Korthax who ended it. The disgraced commander of the Ninth Fleet had spent the year in coalition custody, watching the galaxy change. Now, released to negotiate with his own people, he contacted Kython directly. "Supreme Overlord, it's over," he said simply. "Look around. You're fighting your own people as much as the humans. This isn't restoration, it's destruction. End this, and perhaps something of our civilization can survive." Kython, standing on the bridge of his flagship as coalition forces closed in, faced the final choice. He could trigger his ship's self-destruct, taking hundreds with him in a final act of defiance. Or he could surrender and face judgment. The galaxy held its breath. Then, slowly, Kython powered down his weapons. "I yield," he transmitted. "May history judge whether I fought for glory or doom." The surrender of Kython's fleet marked the end of organized resistance to the coalition. But the real work was just beginning. War crimes tribunals were established, but They focused on restoration rather than revenge. Former hegemony leaders who showed genuine remorse were given chances to help rebuild what they had destroyed. Kython himself became a complex figure. Tried for genocide and found guilty, he surprised everyone by accepting the verdict. His sentence: to spend his remaining years teaching hegemony youth about the dangers of supremacist ideology. It was poetic justice, the architect of oppression becoming an educator for freedom. A year later, President Martinez stood before the first full galactic assembly held on neutral ground. Representatives from over 100 species attended, including reformed hegemony worlds. The scars of war remained, but healing had begun. We gather not as conquerors and conquered, she began, but as equals seeking a better future. The old galaxy was built on fear. The new one will be built on hope. It won't be easy. We'll make mistakes. We'll face challenges we can't yet imagine. But we'll face them together. The Prometheus platform remained closely guarded but unused. Some called for its destruction, but wiser heads prevailed. The galaxy was vast and full of unknown threats. Better to have the ultimate weapon and not need it than the reverse. Dr. Kim's research had borne fruit, a defensive system that could protect against dimensional erasure weapons. The technology was shared with all coalition members, ensuring that no single species could hold the galaxy hostage. Balance was restored, but carefully, thoughtfully. On Haven, Maria Santos watched her grandson play with children from 6 different species in the colony's new integrated school. The boy didn't see aliens, he saw friends. It was a small thing, but it represented everything they had fought for. General Chun retired, his duty done. In his final speech to the coalition military, he said, "We showed the galaxy that humans could be warriors when needed. Now we must show them we can be builders, teachers, and friends. The hardest battles are won not with weapons, but with patience." The galaxy had changed. The hegemony's 10,000-year reign was over. In its place rose something more chaotic, but more free. Species that had never known independence learned to govern themselves. Former enemies learned to work together. And humanity, thrust reluctantly into leadership, tried to guide without dominating. It wasn't perfect. Border disputes arose. Pirates still plagued shipping lanes. Some species struggled with democracy after millennia of autocracy. But problems were solved through negotiation, not annihilation. The rule of law slowly replaced the rule of strength. The Ninth Fleet had vanished without a trace, beginning humanity's rise. Now, as the galaxy rebuilt, that vanishing served as both warning and promise. Challenge the innocent, and face consequences beyond imagination. Choose cooperation, and find partners beyond counting. In schools across the coalition, children learned a new version of history. Not one of inevitable domination by the strong, but of cooperation lifting all. They learned about the humans who stood alone against injustice, the allies who joined them, and the enemies who became friends. And in the deep void between galaxies, automated probes continued their eternal watch, because the universe was vast and full of unknowns. The coalition had brought peace to one small corner of it, but they remained vigilant. The galaxy had learned humanity's most important lesson. It's not enough to survive. You must survive with your principles intact. You must win without becoming what you fought against. You must build something worth defending. The transformation was complete. The age of empires was over. The age of coalition had truly begun. And somewhere among the stars, humanity's children played with alien friends, growing up in a galaxy their grandparents could never have imagined. It was, as President Martinez said in her final address before stepping down, not the end of history, but the beginning of a better chapter. The stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the drama below. But for the first time in 10,000 years, those who lived among them looked up with hope instead of fear. The galaxy was free. The future was unwritten, and humanity had helped make it so. 10 years had passed since the coalition of free worlds rose from the ashes of the hegemony's empire. The galaxy had settled into an uneasy but hopeful peace. Trade routes flourished under coalition protection. Former enemies worked side by side on massive construction projects. The scars of war faded slowly, replaced by the growing pains of unprecedented cooperation. But peace, as humanity had learned throughout its history, was never permanent. And the universe held dangers far greater than anything the galaxy had yet faced. The first warning came from Deep Listening Post Sigma 7, positioned at the very edge of known space. Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka was halfway through her coffee when the sensors screamed to life. What the hell? She set down her mug, fingers flying over the controls. The readings made no sense. Space itself seemed to be unraveling at the edge of their sensor range. Her Altarian colleague pulsed rapidly, colors indicating extreme alarm. Confirmed. Massive spatial distortions approaching at, this can't be right, 0.7 light speed. Nothing travels through normal space that fast, Tanaka muttered. Give me a visual. The main screen flickered to life, showing the void beyond the galaxy's edge. At first, there was nothing but stars. Then, those stars began to disappear, not going dark, vanishing entirely, as if something was consuming the very fabric of space itself. Send priority alert to Coalition Command, Tanaka ordered. Unknown phenomenon approaching from intergalactic space. Estimated time to galaxy's edge, 6 months. The message raced through quantum communicators to Earth, where the Coalition's joint command structure had evolved into an efficient blend of military and scientific leadership. Admiral Wong, now serving as Supreme Commander of Coalition forces, received the alert during a strategy meeting. Show me, she ordered. The holographic display materialized, showing the advancing void. Data scrolled alongside. Energy readings that defied known physics, gravitational anomalies that shouldn't exist, and a progression rate that spoke of intelligence rather than natural phenomenon. It's consuming space itself, Dr. Kim reported. She had been pulled from retirement when the alert came through. Not just matter or energy, the actual fabric of reality is being processed. President Cho Min-jun, Earth's current leader and rotating head of the Coalition Council, studied the display grimly. Estimates on when it reaches inhabited systems? At current rate, 8 months to the first frontier colonies, a year to major population centers, 18 months to the core worlds. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't an invasion they could fight with fleets. This wasn't an enemy they could negotiate with. This was existential annihilation on a scale that dwarfed even the hegemony's worst atrocities. Options? Cho asked. Admiral Wong pulled up tactical projections. We're mobilizing every science vessel we have to study it. The Prometheus platform is being prepared, though we don't know if it will have any effect on something of this scale. We're also reaching out to every species in the Coalition. Someone might have legends or ancient warnings about this. The call went out across the galaxy. Scientists, historians, mystics, anyone who might have insight into what they were facing. The response was overwhelming. Species that had been traveling the stars for millions of years searched their archives. Archaeological teams scoured ancient ruins. Every lead was pursued. It was the Kelnari, a reclusive species that had joined the Coalition only recently, who provided the first clue. Their eldest keeper of memories, a being so ancient it remembered when their star was young, spoke in whispers that had to be amplified. The Devourers, it said, its crystalline form resonating with harmonics of fear. Our earliest texts speak of them. They come from the void between galaxies, consuming reality itself to fuel their expansion. They are not life as we understand it. They are entropy given hunger. How did the ancient civilizations stop them? Dr. Kim asked urgently. They didn't. They fled or died. Entire galaxies went dark. We are here because our ancestors ran far and fast enough. The Keeper's form dimmed. There is no stopping them. There is only delay or escape. But humanity hadn't survived by accepting the impossible. As panic began to spread across the Coalition, Earth's leadership made a decision that would have been unthinkable years before. Open all archives, President Cho commanded. Every secret project, every theoretical weapon, every crazy idea that was deemed too dangerous. If we're facing the end of everything, then everything is on the table. The vaults opened. Technologies that had been locked away emerged into the light. Weapons that could crack dimensions. Shields that existed partially outside normal space. Engines that could move not just through space, but around it. Humanity had developed many of these during their years of hidden preparation, but even they had been afraid to use them. Not anymore. On Mars, the Prometheus platform was expanded. New modules were added, incorporating coalition technology and human innovation. If they couldn't stop the Devourers conventionally, perhaps they could erase them from existence entirely. On Haven, Maria Santos, now in her 70s but still sharp as ever, coordinated the largest evacuation in galactic history. Frontier colonies were emptied. Their populations moved to core worlds. It was a delaying action at best, but every life saved mattered. "Grandma, why do we have to leave?" her great-grandson asked as they watched ships fill the sky. "Because something bad is coming," she said gently. "But don't worry. Humans are very good at dealing with bad things." The boy nodded, trusting in the way only children could. Maria wished she had his faith. 3 months into the crisis, the first probes reached the advancing void. The data they sent back was terrifying in its implications. The Devourers weren't just consuming space. They were converting it into something else. Reality was being rewritten at a fundamental level, transformed into something alien and hostile to normal matter. "It's like a cancer on the universe itself," Dr. Kim explained to the Emergency Council. "It spreads, consumes, and transforms. And it's accelerating." "Can we communicate with it?" asked the Quellax ambassador. "Perhaps it's intelligent. Perhaps it can be reasoned with." "We've tried every form of communication we know," Admiral Wong replied. "Radio, quantum entanglement, even telepathic species have attempted contact. There's nothing there to talk to. It's not malevolent. It's just hungry." The first engagement came when a coalition fleet attempted to slow the advance with conventional weapons. 1,000 ships opened fire with everything they had: antimatter bombs, singularity missiles, energy weapons that could pierce planets. The void swallowed it all without slowing. Worse, the ships that got too close began to unravel, their matter converting to the alien substrate. Only quick thinking by their commanders saved most of the fleet, but the message was clear: conventional warfare was useless. "Prometheus?" President Cho asked. Dr. Kim shook her head. "We fired a test shot. The erasure beam simply disappeared into the void. Whatever the Devourers are, they exist partially outside our dimensional framework. We can't erase something that isn't fully here." Desperation bred innovation. On research stations across the galaxy, scientists worked around the clock. Barriers between species broke down completely. Survival overrode all other concerns. A hive mind species called the Zorati linked with human researchers, their collective,